sometimes it's great and you're at the top of the world and that won't last.
Yeah.
But also when you're at the bottom of the world and nothing's going the way you want it to, that won't last either. Good times don't last, but bad times don't last.
Yeah.
So just keep pushing.
Hey there, business enthusiasts. Welcome to the Chills Podcast, brought to you by All Weather Roof. Because just like a sturdy roof, our conversations are built to last. I'm your host, Brent Loberg, and we're about to dive into the world of business, family, and the moments that give us those exhilarating chills. Ever wonder what keeps successful people inspired? Well, get ready to find out as we chat with some fantastic all-weather customers, partners, vendors, and friends. We'll explore their triumphs, challenges, and maybe even some unexpected secrets. After all, business is not just about numbers. It's about the people behind them. So grab your metaphorical popcorn and join us on this journey. Get ready to be inspired, maybe even get a few chills of your own. This is the Chills Podcast. Let the goosebumps begin.
I'm Christa Boone. I own National Karate and have known William for a super long time. His kids started karate back, I don't know, the beginning of Albertville almost. So I feel like it's been at least 5 or 6 years.
And you grew up in a family that did karate?
Yeah, so I started karate when I was 4, actually, in Apple Valley. We lived in Apple Valley and my parents had done it. They kind of started doing it as like their date night before they had kids. And then my dad got his black belt. My mom never got all the way to black belt because then they had kids and she kind of stopped doing it. Mm-hmm. But my dad just was always really involved and he was a black belt when we were all born. And my older brother did it, then I did it. And it just kind of stayed from there.
Okay, so your parents didn't have an actual school. They got their black belts.
Correct. Well, my dad got his black belt and my mom did karate for a long time. She got to be a brown belt, but not a black belt. But as we progressed, my dad was a black belt through National Karate. And so he started, like I said, in Apple Valley and got his black belt through Apple Valley. Mm-hmm. And then we moved to Kimball, Minnesota, and there was no National Karate anywhere near there at the time. So we took a short break. And then there was like kind of a charter school in Buffalo that one of the National Karate black belts ran. His name was Jeff Driscoll. And so we went to the Buffalo charter school for a while because it was National Karate again. And then eventually the St. Cloud location opened under Mark Schindler. And so that's kind of where, that was my first, I would say, like home school that I remember. I remember the Buffalo school a little bit, but the St. Cloud school is kind of where we transitioned into all of us doing karate all the time. So
okay. And how did it start from that into wanting to have your own?
So the St. Cloud school, my dad helped out a lot at the St. Cloud school, but he was actually a sheet metal worker. So he worked for Metropolitan Mechanical and United Sheet Metal for like most of my growing up life. And so karate was his hobby. So he just helped out at the school a lot. And then the circumstances kind of changed and my parents got kind of put into a position where they could buy the school. Mm-hmm. So they ended up buying the school when I want to say that was 98. I think I was around 11 when they bought the school. It might have been a little earlier than that, but somewhere around that area, they bought the St. Cloud school. And then I kind of grew up in a karate school helping and teaching and learning what it was like to run a school. So that's where I kind of fell into this could be something I could do for the rest of my life.
Okay. And at that time, so that was when you were around 11 years old.
Yep.
Were you also competing?
I wasn't really competing competitively at that time. I'm sure I went to tournaments and stuff because my parents were always going to things and doing stuff. So I didn't start competing actually like competitively, I would say, until after I was a black belt. I'm probably closer to like my late teen years, like 16, 17. So I probably would have been a third degree black belt around there when I started competing more often. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of went from that to, I competed locally for a long time and just did the like North Central Karate Association circuit, which is just this area, and competed there for a while. And then I did 1 year where I traveled and competed the NASCA circuit, which is the North American Sport Karate Association.
Okay.
But just 1 year of that. And then I got injured and that kind of took me out for a while. And it was awfully hard to travel and compete and also run a school.
Sure.
Yeah. So it was kind of a question of which one do you want to do and which one do you want to work on and how do you want to move forward, I guess.
Okay. And are there different types of, there's a bunch of different types of karate. And what is it you consider yours a sport karate that you teach?
Kind of. So we do teach two sport karate. So if you're going to compete, we do sport karate. I would say our curriculum is an Americanized version of Taekwondo.
Okay.
So we do like a lot of your traditional kicking and punching type things. But then we also have a pretty big self-defense component. And we do some like classical karate and some different styles of forms. So we're a little more Korean based, so a little different than just a standard Taekwondo school.
Okay. And how did you come up with that? Like what made you go down that route?
Well, I've always been involved in national karate just because that's how I grew up and where I was. And then when would it have been? 2008 is when I graduated from college and then opened the Sartell location. And that was the first school that I ran. And then from there, kind of, as I became an owner and like got better at teaching and got better at knowing how to run the business side of things. And obviously I was kind of in a lucky position because not anybody could own a national karate school. You'd have to get permission from our founders. And because of my parents and my background, I had them backing me saying like, yeah, this is what she wants to do. We're backing her. If she doesn't do well, obviously we'll take over the school and run it. So I was kind of in a unique and lucky position to be able to run a school that young. Mm-hmm. And so then my growing through running the school and figuring all of that out is kind of how I decided, yes, this is what I want to do. Yes, this is where I want to stay. And then I got very involved in our curriculum committees and like some of the pieces that keep National Karate moving forward and developing as an organization. And so it was very nice to be able to like contribute and say, these are the pieces I think we need to work on. This is what we're missing as an organization. And that's what kind of makes us unique, is that we've kind of grown with the world and our times and changed our curriculum so that it matches where it needs to be for now.
Mm-hmm. And as far as like fitting your kind of style and kind of bringing your own, I guess, twist on the sport and training, like how's that different from like a different school? Like what do you have to offer?
Well, because National Karate is big, we have a lot of different people, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of venues and avenues that you can take to different people and different styles. If you want to compete creative, if you want to compete in sparring, there's a lot of people who have done it and who have done it well, both locally and nationally. So it's nice to have those people behind you teaching you what you need to do. So you can train to compete locally or compete nationally without ever really having to leave Minnesota, because National Karate has enough people to help all of those pieces. Also, I feel like me personally, because I've competed, I can help people know what it's like to compete and start that road if they want to. But I think the individual schools, as far as not the competitive side, but just the teaching side, it just has to do with each school is going to be a little different. But when you get to the end result, when you get to black belt, the people that are all testing, we're all testing together as an organization. They all know the same stuff. So it's kind of cool to see, 100 people come together and all be able to do exactly the same thing and with the same stances and the same power and the same intensity level and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. And are you training all levels, kids to adults?
Yeah. Albertville is unique in the fact that we start at 3. Most schools start at 4 and offer a children's program from like 4 to 6, and then a youth program, a teen program, and an adult program. But the way back, like the roots of Albertville come from St. Cloud, where obviously I grew up. And the person who was running St. Cloud at the time, her name was Kelly Deasy, and she really liked little kids. So she had a tiny top program, which we've just kind of kept and used. So we start pretty young. Okay.
I guess what for the audience who's might want to start into karate, no matter what age they are, like what do you think the best step is?
Well, obviously the best step is to just do it. The hardest part, I think, of doing karate is the walk through the door, put on the uniform, do it. Because especially as an adult, you're putting on silly looking pajamas and we're making you yell, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a little weird. But once you walk through the door and get started, it's really good for, your coordination, your concentration, your focus, your balance, learning how to use your body a little better. It's super good for kids, adults too, obviously, except for most adults have learned the focus piece a little better. But it's really good for teaching kids focus without saying, hey, I'm teaching you how to focus.
Okay.
Because holding your hands still while your feet are kicking or holding your feet still while your hands are punching is teaching your body how to focus one part and not the other parts.
Okay. So if someone comes in, let's say I come in and you're like, how can I apply karate to my everyday life? Not aside from just like learning how to protect myself or fight.
Yeah. The self-defense piece is obviously big, mostly just because if you know something, if you ever got into a position where you needed to use it, you wouldn't freeze. Or at least that's the idea, right? As if you practice it and you feel confident and you feel like you could do something, then you know something. The other pieces are, it really does help your coordination. So it helps a little bit with if you're doing anything athletic, it's helping there. If you're doing anything where you're focusing or concentrating, just the idea of learning different patterns and having your brain focus on something for a specific period of time is going to help all of those little pieces. I think you probably see it less as an adult and less as a kid who's already really good at focus, but you still see it. So
Sure.
I think, if you use it, it keeps developing.
Okay. So as an athlete and somebody who competed, how was that transition from that and moving into running it and starting a business?
Yeah. Competing was really fun and traveling and doing all of that stuff. I think honestly, like having to step back from it for a little while was good for me because I like the business side and being able to watch that happen for my students. Like some of the hardest people to teach or the people who struggle the most at the beginning are the most fun to watch because their transition is the biggest, obviously. They have maybe more work to do than somebody who's already really talented. But obviously the really talented people are fun too because they can go a long way with it. So watching everybody and getting to be on the backside and be there every day and see them and know that their progress is because I'm working at doing my job well and I enjoy doing it.
Sure. So if you had a student who you taught and helped compete and they came to you and they said, hey, I want to start my own school, what would be the advice that you would give them?
To start at your own school, the big thing is you have to feel like you can handle the students and the teaching side. The business side is learnable. Plus the business side is also like, I don't do everything. Obviously I let my mom do a lot of our tax work and a lot of my book work to keep everything organized because I don't want to have to do that every day. I like being in my classroom. So
Sure.
It's nice to be able to give some of those pieces to other people. But then I think the big piece is you have to know, like if you're going to own a business, you need to be there. So it's hard to own a business and run it from the sidelines and have it all work the way you want it to work because it's a lot easier to do it if you're hands-on.
Okay. I'm a fight fan myself, and what I've seen, like a lot of my favorite fighters, they don't seem to know when to let go of that.
Yes.
They keep competing and they're getting injured and the CT and all that. Like, what's your word of advice to be able to let that go and say, all right, I'm going to go down a different path and start giving back?
Yeah, that's hard. I didn't compete for a super long time because I was kind of unlucky and got hurt right away. And my injury was significant enough that it was hard to go back.
What was your injury, if you don't?
I had a head injury. It was just kind of like an unlucky, I got hit wrong. I got a concussion. I was a kid and young and silly and didn't want to listen to anyone. So probably by the time I actually realized it was time for me to stop, they figure I'd had at least a dozen concussions, if not more, over a short period of time. And I thought I was invincible. I was 20 years old.
Sure.
So I didn't know. So by the time I had to step back, I couldn't do anything with impact for probably close to a solid year.
Okay.
So I started biking a lot because I couldn't run. Because running was everything was too much impact.
Yep.
And when I started biking a lot, I didn't love that, but it was something I could do. And I've always been someone who's like, just very motivated by anything athletic and competition and that kind of thing. So I changed my path and started running marathons.
Okay.
And ran a few marathons to kind of offset I miss competing. I miss that part of it.
Found a different path.
Yeah.
Do you still run?
I do still run, but less.
Don't marathons or anything?
No.
Yeah.
No,
like Joe said, because I was a runner,
yeah.
I was like, hey, your sport is my discipline, or I don't like doing it,
Yeah. Yep. Yes. I like running a lot, but But training for, obviously, if you're a runner, you know, training for a marathon is a lot of work and a big time commitment and hard on your body. And so I ran 5 and then decided that was enough. I needed to do something else.
Nice. What was your favorite marathon?
I ran Fargo, and I honestly think Fargo might have been my favorite because it was just not that hilly.
Okay.
I ran Des Moines thinking Iowa, it would not be hilly. Des Moines is very hilly for a marathon.
Is it like rolly farmland or what is it?
Yeah, I was just unprepared for how big the hills were going to be and how many there were going to be for Des Moines.
Did you ever do Columbus?
No, I never won the lot. I only tried 1 year, but I didn't get the lottery the year I tried, so I didn't get to run it.
Okay. So the name of the podcast is The Chills, and I explain it's like those feel-good moments make the hair stand up in the back of your neck. Like what in your business gives you the chills?
I think obviously like Joe fought for a while, so watching him win, but honestly he lost his last fight, and watching him lose and watching him do what no one can do as an athlete. I struggle to do it. I've always tried to be very humble and losing, and obviously if somebody else is better than me, they should win. But watching Joe do that for a fight that he was really confident in, doing well in until he all of a sudden wasn't.
Sure.
It was really, really humbling and amazing for me to watch him handle it so well and just be exactly what we should all be if we end up in that position.
Sure.
You know,
humble in victory or defeat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I talked to Will. I didn't catch the fight, but I did talk to Will a little bit about it. So, and I could have guessed that if he was going to lose, it was going to be on the ground.
Yes.
So,
well, and that's kind of, I think, good or bad, that's where he's weak. You know, he has spent his whole entire life training stand-up and training sport karate fighting, so point fighting. So his distance control, all of that is probably better than a lot of the people he's fighting, but he hasn't been doing ground stuff for, at least not looking at competing, other than his wrestling in high school. He's only been doing ground stuff for the last probably year and a half maybe. Mm-hmm. So not super long for trying to get in a cage and be good at it.
For sure. I talked a little bit about the Karate Kid with Joe, but there's a moment in the movie, and it's hard to even catch, but when Daniel wins at the end and Johnny comes up with the trophy and says, "You're all right, LaRue." So
yeah,
it's funny they didn't highlight that more in the movie just because there was such a contrast between the bully and, you know.
Yes. But that would be one of those moments.
For sure. I could tell you were tearing up a little bit when you were talking about Joel being that humble thing. Yes. Very cool just to see that passion come through.
Yeah, honestly, that third fight, so when he started this, he really wanted to get into MMA, and he's always wanted to, and I'd been pushing him for a while, just because it's one of those things like you can't get older and get better. Eventually you outgrow it. You're too old, and the 20-year-olds are going to crush you because they're 20. And so our youngest is now 3, almost 4. And so last year I was like, if you're going to do it, you should do it. I can handle our home life where the kids are old enough that I can deal with it and you can train. And so he finally decided to do it and started training. His first fight, the training was really rough. Not for him, really. I guess for him, yes. But not that part of it. The going and the doing it was fine. But he had to drop a lot of weight pretty fast. And he had to do it over the holidays. And so that was kind of tough. And he just was so focused on the fight that after the first fight, I didn't want him to do another one unless he could change that a little. He needed to be more. I just told him he could have 2 weeks where he was just thinking about the fight at the end, but that he still needed to, be a dad and be home. But he really wanted to do it again. So I was very supportive of him doing it again. He did a great job of being different during his training. The second time around, he still, was dad and was home and was present and was part of our lives. And then the second fight went well. He wasn't sure if he wanted to do it again, but then they offered him a title fight, which obviously ignites a fight company. So they know how fighters work. So they were going to give him something that he wanted. And so when they offered him the title fight and he took it, he was really excited about it. But then he'd been in training mode for almost a full year at that point. So it was just a lot. So the third fight, his training was really hard for him. It was hard for him to, not the physical training, but like his mindset just wasn't really there. And the last 2 or 3 weeks before the fight, We tried really hard to give him space at home so that he could try to get his mental game, because he was trying so hard. And he worked so hard on being in a position that he was ready for the fight. But he told me after the fight, the first time he got hit in the ring, he thought to himself, like, why am I here? And as a fighter, like as an athlete, that's going to be so hard. Like, how do you, I don't know how, I'm just very impressed by the fact that he could push through those last couple weeks and like try so hard to get focused and get in the ring and push past that I don't want to be here feeling and give it his all. And then fight really well. Because I know you didn't watch the fight, but if you did, he was definitely winning during the stand-up the whole time. He was doing a really good job of doing what he should do. I think probably the other guy was very smart because he waited and waited and waited to take him down and just stood up. He said after the fight that his coaches told him he needed to take him down. And he was like, but I'm just having fun standing up. They're like, yeah, but you're losing, so you need to take him down. And I think Joe was just too confident standing up by the time he went for the takedown that he just made one wrong move, got taken down, got put in a bad spot, and that was that. It was literally he got taken down and was out so fast. Happened really quick. And to go from all that training and all that work to like, I don't want to be here, but I'm trying my best to be here, to I'm winning, to I just got put in a guillotine and had to tap out, to being humble and saying good job to the other person and acting the way he acted. Like, I've never seen him lose. I know he has lost in his life, but since I've been married to him, I've never seen him lose. And so I didn't know that side of him, that he could be that humble and that he has a big personality. Mm-hmm. And so to watch that was pretty impressive. So I've heard him talk it, but I don't know if I actually believed it until I saw him do it.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and it definitely an emotional moment for me.
For sure. It's touching. It's a good story.
Yeah.
I like that. It reminded of what you were talking about, like when you're too much focused. George St. Pierre, I listened to a podcast with him, and he would say as soon as he signed that contract for the fight, it was like mental warfare for him.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to, how do you not think about that? And how do you not put everything into it?
Yeah.
You know, and he doesn't have kids or anything, but like you guys have your businesses and your kids, it's hard to.
Yeah. Joe has an entire life. Plus he wanted to fight, which is why I was so supportive of it the first fight. It was like a bucket list item for him and he wanted to do it. And if there was something like that in my life, I'm 100% sure he would say, go for it. I got our home life for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad he got the opportunity to do it, because I would have forever felt bad if he never did it.
Yeah. Do you think he'll do it again?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No.
I know if he would have won, for sure, he wouldn't have gone back.
Okay.
I don't think he'll go back just because of how hard the mental part of it was for him for this fight. And because he doesn't want to keep fighting for the rest of his life. He doesn't want to really like take it anywhere else. So I guess I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't.
Yeah. Dana White, president of UFC.
Yeah.
He always talks about if you're not 100% in, it's probably not the business for you.
Yeah.
But not the answer for him. But that came to mind.
Yeah. I feel like if he takes some time off, he might decide, he really wants to do it. I think a big part of it for him was he started training for that first fight like a year and a couple months ago. And so by the time we were at this fight, he'd been in training in fight mode, a ton.
Sure.
Because he fought February, June, November, which is a lot of fights for, getting in the ring and being ready and doing all the fight camps and doing all the extra training that he does. And so I think it was just time for him to get a break.
Yeah. Told you I'm a little bit of a fight fan. I like watching like UFC and stuff. Mm-hmm. Do you watch, or do you have any favorite fighters or karate people? Or
I do watch a lot. We've watched like Karate Combat and watching people like Ross Levine, and like watching the people that I've seen sport karate fight often take it to another level is really cool to watch. Obviously, like watching any of those transitions from people that I grew up watching fight that I've always looked at and thought like, wow, they were really good. Mm-hmm. And then watching them, Jason Borelli was also one that went to Karate Combat, and watching them fight and do different stuff and take it to the next level has always been really cool for me.
Okay. Is that like who'd be one of your favorite fighters, or?
He's just one, like they're both people that I've watched, Raymond Daniels, Ross Levine, Jason Borelli, like they were all big fighters when I was competing, and they were competing often like names that I knew. So when they're fighting and winning and fast, and it's just fun to watch them.
Mm-hmm. Some of my favorite fights, you probably know Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
Yeah.
When he would fight like a wrestler.
Yeah.
Like that, and some of those fights were super boring because they both didn't want to commit.
Yeah.
But like I was on the edge of my seat the whole time watched some of the fight. Like when he fought Tyron Woodley twice. Yeah. You know, they were super, like there wasn't a lot of action, but when there was, it was like, oh man, is he going to take him down, or is he going to punch Woodley? Or I love those fights. Super, super fun.
What's going to happen? Yeah. And I feel like that's a big part of fighting, right? Is just if you make a wrong move and get put in a bad position, especially when you are going to the ground and doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine trying to like step in. I don't have much, almost none ground experience, so I can't imagine like watching how fast I step in or what I'm doing because somebody's going to catch me and throw me on the ground.
Yeah, I suppose takedown defense.
Yeah,
tough.
Yeah.
Do you guys teach that in your school?
Joe does a little in some of his like more intense classes. We don't. We just teach how to sport karate fight. It's all stand up. We do teach takedowns and stuff at black belt. So once you're a black belt, there's a little bit of it, but nothing like grappling or wrestling or jiu-jitsu type stuff.
Okay. If you did, like, what would you say is jiu-jitsu like probably the best ground to teach?
I don't know, because I don't do it.
Sure.
But I feel like obviously the more well-rounded you are, the more martial arts you know, the more opportunities you have to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm. So you're going to get your kids obviously into it.
Yes.
Will you teach them striking and some taking defense too?
Yeah, I definitely think that's for the boys especially. I don't know about Noelle, our daughter, because she's super into dance and not very, I don't know what the right word is, not very intense, I guess. Sure. But both of the boys, Royce and William, are very, we want to wrestle, we want to fight. With Joe, they are just taking each other down and running and jumping on each other and punching, and Joe welcomes it. He encourages it because he likes that they want to do it. So I think for both of them, Royce has just started doing like some private lessons with Joe's coach for ground game, and so Royce has done a little. And there's kind of a wrestling STMA, St. Michael Albertville is where we live, and their wrestling program is very big. That's where Joe wrestled as a kid. So they start at 4, and William, I think, is probably next year going to maybe do some stuff with their wrestling program. So start working on what it looks like and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. How can people get in touch with you and sign up for your school?
Yeah, so we're in Albertville. They can email me at albertville@nationalkarate.com, email us, and then we'll get something set up and they can come in.
Okay. We'll put it up on the screen and stuff too for the podcast.
Yeah, perfect.
We'll send it out before we send it out. But I do have a bonus question. I asked Joe the same thing. Favorite fight movie?
Favorite fight movie? I don't know. That's hard. There's so many. There's a lot that we watch as karate people, but really honestly, I don't know. I think some of the Rocky movies, just because they're so old school, I really like watching those.
Yeah. I like watching like the way they kind of go off and both train and they come together and it's a fight. I like and that's also what I like about the fight game is you can see the build up and you're on social media, watch what this guy's training, all this guy's training, and so
watch all of the transition and how it goes.
Yeah, and I think I shared this with Joe, but like the Karate Kid was so cool because as a kid you wanted to be like the Karate Kid, and as I'm a dad, I'm like, hey, I'm Mr. Miyagi.
Yes, I think as karate instructors, that's how we hope to, you grow up as a kid wanting to be like that, and then you're hoping that eventually you're having the same effect on all your students and all the people and teaching them how to be the person that you hope that they're going to turn into and be.
Yeah. So how have you used karate in your real life?
I use karate often. I'd say probably the biggest one right now is the patience piece when having kids, because that transition for me to having kids and learning how to take a step back and be patient with them. If I wouldn't have learned that skill as an instructor and through teaching and through, being a student and listening to the teachers when they're teaching the people that need more help than I do, or teaching me on the days I need more help, that would have been a hard transition. So I think that skill right now is the biggest one in my life at the moment anyway.
Okay. Very cool.
Stepping in, especially where I was, karate is definitely a hierarchy, and I have a lot of respect for John Worley and Larry Carnahan and Jim Albertson and the people who are at the top of our organization. So stepping in and having them essentially say, sure, we believe in you. Yes, we want you to do this. Yes, we think you can, was a lot of pressure. But then also, can you really do it? Can you run a school? Can you be there every day? Can you pick up all the pieces and make it all work? Was a hard step in life, I guess, for me. But as I stepped in and having those people backing me, that definitely helped to show that I could do it. Also, I'm very motivated by like the work. I want to show that I can do it, that I can step up and do it. So that part was a little easier just because I wanted to be there every day. I wanted to keep working it. I wanted to keep doing. But I think the other piece is too asking for help when you need help. So when there was times where maybe I wasn't getting enough new students or where I was having a class that I felt like needed to move up but didn't know the curriculum they needed, asking for help. So I did talk to John Worley often throughout my martial arts career about, this is what's going on in my school. What do you think? Can you help me? And he gave me so many pieces as a mentor. And I, especially like looking back on that, I have so much respect for him for offering me all of those pieces as a kid stepping into something that I feel like I was maybe a little young to step into. So having them all believe in me and help me really helped. But also having them actually help me and teaching me that, turning to them and saying like, what do I do next? How do I move forward? That helped a lot.
Okay. What is it about the work is it an internal, or you want to show people that you got this hard work ethic?
It's more, I just want it to be successful. If I want something to work, I don't want it to fall apart. It's not necessarily that I want to prove to everyone else I can do it. I want to prove to myself I can do it. I want it to go the way it should go. So I want to, if I'm there every day and if I'm working on it and if I'm trying, I want it to work, which some days it doesn't always go that way. But that's just how life goes. And those have been good lessons for me too as a business owner. Sometimes it's great and you're at the top of the world and that won't last.
Yeah.
But also when you're at the bottom of the world and nothing's going the way you want it to, that won't last either. So
sure.
That's one of my favorite things John Worley ever said to me is good times don't last, but bad times don't last.
Yeah.
So just keep pushing.
Yeah, that's a good one. Mm-hmm. As far as balance, did you find it hard? Because from an athlete to going into business, it was hard to have that home life balance. Did you find that was hard for you too? Like I just felt like I just wanted to work and work and work.
Yeah. So I worked constantly before I had kids, and work was more or less who I was, because it just was all the time, every day. So it was who I kind of became. And so I think, honestly, like marrying Joe and starting to have kids and starting to have a home life has made me have to create that balance. So I think I'm a lot better at it now than I was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, work was my life and I didn't really take time off, but I didn't really need to because I had during the day and I had like weekend hours when we weren't open. And so I didn't really need to take time off. Now I try not to go into work until I need to teach. And then I try not to take too many things home with me so that I can homeschool my kids and be present and spend time with them and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this was fun.
It was fun.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And that's a wrap, folks. A huge thank you to our incredible guests and, of course, All Weather Roof for making this podcast possible. If you enjoyed these conversations as much as we did, don't forget to hit subscribe and share the chills with your fellow business aficionados. Remember, it's not just about business, it's personal, and it's all about the people. Stay inspired, chase those dreams, and let the chills guide you. Till next time, this is Brent, signing off from the Chills Podcast. Catch you on the flip side.